What is good, everybody? Welcome to another joint gold standard Grant Cohn production. It is Wednesday. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera. There's Grant Cohn. Grant, I appreciate you doing the pod before you get on the plane to go to Vegas.
This isn't a vacation. This is a work week. And just like you, I don't take days off. I don't get paid days off, paid vacations. I'm here to work, baby. And this is training camp. Let's go.
Got any good plans for Vegas when you're out there?
Nah, man, it's going to be so hot. This is what I'm going to do. So they're going to be practicing really early in the morning. So I'm going to wake my butt up early, get home around a little after lunch, do my stream, wait for the sun to go down. So it's not, I mean, like, what are you going to do? It's going to be 105 degrees. Wait for the sun to go down, go get some food, come back to my hotel room, go to sleep, do it again. That's what I'm going to be doing. It's going to be fun.
Oh, man, I can't wait. I'm so eager to see
Cirque du Soleil every night. That's what I'm doing.
Hey, look, I wouldn't be surprised to see Grant Cohn out on the strip at night in Vegas. That's all I'm saying.
I guarantee you won't find me out there.
You don't like to gamble? Nothing?
No.
All right.
Because I lose. Yeah, it seems like such a hard way to make money. You know what's the easier way to make money? YouTube.
Yeah. It's true. At least you know if you put the effort in, you're going to be rewarded. All right.
It's like playing craps and always winning. It's the best. It's the best.
Yes. We're going to get to some of the narratives from training camp that I want to see hold up against the Raiders, but we got to start with the story of the day yesterday, which was, of course, the word "or," because the Niners on the depth chart released the depth chart, and Trey Lance or Sam Darnold was listed as QB2. Now, as I have told people, do not put any faith in the depth chart, the first one that comes out. They have to be released. Pretty much a lot of the coaches just give it to the PR staff to do.
That's true.
So I'm not sweating this out, but I did think it was kind of a little bit of a troll job by the 49ers.
I do think, most of the time the PR staff puts it together, and if I was on the PR staff, based on what I've seen in practice, I would have put the or two, because the Niners haven't decided yet who's going to be the number 2 quarterback. They would tell you they haven't decided, and based on the reps, they're so even between Darnold and Trey. You'd have to. So it seems honest, even if it is trolling. But I don't believe, obviously they're going to have to pick one guy to be the backup at some point. And one of these guys is going to be the third string, and he's going to be inactive on game days, and it's going to be freaking embarrassing. And you know what the Niners could do, if they're really indecisive, is they can make one guy inactive one week and the other guy inactive the next week. But no, eventually they're going to have to actually settle on a backup quarterback. And to me, it is clearly Trey Lance. And I think everyone watching practices would agree. I haven't found anyone watching practices that says, you know what, Sam Darnold is playing better than Trey. Jackhammer, ask whoever. It's like, no. A lot of people feel Brock's the best quarterback on the team. I'm not sure about that. But even those people will say, Trey Lance is improving, and he's the second best quarterback here. I think the Niners probably are surprised about that, didn't know this improvement was going to happen, and that's why they brought in Sam Darnold. But Sam Darnold hasn't made improvements. No one says that Sam Darnold's different. Trey is.
And that, to me, is an encouraging sign, but that should be enough. Like, that should be enough. Tim Kami has been saying that he thinks Trey Lance will get, to start against the Raiders on Sunday, but depends on how the joint practices go. Or why should it depend on how the joint practices go? Like, what? It shouldn't depend on that. If this guy's everything you say he is, and he's healthy now, and he looks better than he's ever looked, that should be the end of the freaking argument.
It should be the end of the freaking argument. I don't know why they're making it like this. And again, they say that Brock Purdy's the real deal. Sam Darnold is the second coming of Steve Young and is the most armed talent of any quarterback in franchise history. But no one really has anything over the moon nice to say about Trey Lance other than, hey, he's finally taking some initiative. Everything is kind of like a backhanded compliment for Trey. Like, yeah, he's finally making strides. Right. Finally taking his career in his own hands. Finally seizing his opportunity. Like, okay, what am I not understanding about what's going on behind closed doors? Like, you guys should be over the moon happy that you're finally getting the results that you've been trying to get with this guy that you mortgaged the future for, and it's finally happening. And you're like, I don't care.
Think about it this way. Right? Why? Let's say Brock Purdy was not a thing, didn't exist, wasn't on the team. Right. Trey Lance was just like 2022, and Trey was going to be the presumed starter, and he has had the exact same camp that he has had. I feel like the hype train would be out of control right now.
I would have to say so. Like, the spreadsheet would be talking about his completion percentage and all this stuff. But I don't get it. It's like every day he's clearly better, and people are like, Who cares?
Yeah,
What's interesting is if the Niners were really over it with Trey, if they were really over Trey and didn't think he was going to end up being anything, they really felt he was like the next Paxton Lynch, cut him. But they won't. I think they're in this catch-22 where they feel like they may not have the ability to coach him up because they haven't gotten results with him. But other people can. And it's been proven. And it's scary to think that you could cut him loose and let him wind up in an organization that knows what it's doing at this position, that's equipped to really, overhaul a quarterback's mechanics. Not every team can do that. Not every coach can do that. But Jeff Christensen can. And if another team gets him or gets Lance and has, a coach like, the Niners look bad. Really, 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 really bad. And I think they know that. So they're just going to hold on to Trey for a long time. A long time.
It's weirdness. By the way, Cinnamon Kiss says Cirque du Soleil is fun, Grant.
Hell yeah, it is. I love it. It's a lot of fun.
And check it out.
Expensive as hell.
Yes, it is. I've actually seen it. I was forced to go as a kid. It's not my favorite.
I went in December. It was dope. Before the Raider game. They were they had like a pool on the stage. They were like jumping into the pool. It was dope.
Okay, that's pretty sweet.
Water.
There. What kinds of things should we be listening for that differentiates positive momentum for Trey versus the 49ers fishing him for sale?
They don't fish him for sale. They don't pump up his trade value. They don't shower him with flowery words of praise, to use a Jim Harbaugh phrase. They don't do that. They do that with Sam. They do that with Brock. They even do it with Brandon Allen. But for Trey, it feels like they think they anointed him, or I don't know what they think, but I think they feel they need to take a totally different approach with Trey Lance to get the best out of him, or they're over Trey. They don't feel like they can really coach him, and they're now just like sort of looking at him in amazement, like, man, I didn't expect him to do this. How long is he gonna keep this up?
Well, you pointed out something at practice that I thought was interesting, was that Trey checked the ball down and I gained like 5 yards, I think you said, and you said Kyle basically went nuts.
Here's what happened. So it's 3rd and 8. Trey draws Austin Bryant offside, free play. The play is a screen pass to Jordan Mason. And Trey, he's not the most natural thrower. He's very trained, right? And so he's got this arm slot. And Brock has all these different arm slots. So does Sam. So if there's a defensive lineman in his way, they can kind of like drop it down and make that screen pass. That's not Trey as much. And he got his screen pass blocked, knocked down, and Kyle lost it. He's always so stone-faced on to the next play in practice because he knows everyone's watching. But there's no fans there. And I think so it was a lot quieter. And all of a sudden I hear him go, oh, I'm like, what are you? And he's like yelling into his walkie-talkie. Like, no, Trey's 5 feet from you, man. You can go over and talk to him. And I just don't understand why he reacts that way to Trey and not anyone else. Because, I mean, Brock's over there throwing a pick a day. Sam Darnold is Sam Darnold, but Trey getting his pass tipped is what sets you off. To me, that's inconsistent. And it speaks to something going on behind closed doors that we don't understand. Maybe,
but it also, to me, speaks to the fact that they haven't given up on Trey. You don't get that pissed at someone that you don't care about anymore, right? So that's true. Positive that I took out of it. Like, if you're just like, whatever, this is our QB3, who cares? Then you're not going to get fired up if he gets a screen pass knocked out.
That's true.
So I'm trying to take the positive out of it. I don't know.
You got to. I get the feeling that there's the culture in the 49ers organization, and not just on the team, but the whole organization, is unless you're Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, Jed York, or one of the guys that goes to Cabo, like that elite group, and we know there's an elite group, the inner circle, the holy of holies. Unless you're in that group, nothing you do is ever good enough. And that's everyone in the organization. And I think people act like that's a cool culture. It brings out the best in people. It forces people to go above and beyond. I think it crushes some people. And I think with Trey, he's a young guy who was sort of brought here with high expectations. They sort of recruited him and made him feel like he was special, and then switched up on him. Kind of like you weren't in a fraternity, but sometimes they'll like recruit you and say, oh man, you're so cool, we got to have you. And then they just make your life hell for a year to break you, because that's what frats do. And the Niners sort of have a little bit of a fratty culture where you have your top level dudes and then everyone else trying to make it. And Trey's in that everyone else trying to make it group. And I think because they gave up so much for him, they're so hard on him. And I don't think it's necessarily what he needed. I don't think it's how Andy Reid or Pete Carroll would go about such a thing. It's a very Shanahan thing to do from Mike to Kyle.
Yes. Now this, though, like what's coming up, the joint practices with the Raiders in the game on Sunday. Say what you want about how the 49ers feel about Trey Lance, whether they've been fair, unfair, whatever. Brock's not playing. Trey's going to get his shot. Like, he has to go out and kill it. He has to kill it. Like, regardless of all the other circumstances and everything else, this is the best you're going to get, Trey. So if you want to be QB2, when you play the Raiders, you have to freaking dominate. This should be your Super Bowl.
Yeah, but what's interesting about that is like, what mindset are you supposed to have? Like, are you supposed to go out there and like wing it deep and make plays and go off script? Or is him killing it, throwing the ball in rhythm to short to intermediate? Because to me, what he's been doing in training camp is that. And that's what everyone said he couldn't do. And he's still pushing the ball downfield more than Brock and more than Darnold. But what he's doing that is different is the short to intermediate stuff. And no one makes that big of a deal about it. Like when Brock or Sam Darnold does it, they're like, man, what a great poised quarterback. But when Lance does it, everyone's like, crickets. So to me, what Lance needs to do is keep doing that, man. Keep playing within yourself. Don't try to do too much. Just execute the offense, because that's exactly what they said you couldn't do. And that's what you're doing. So keep doing it. And people will appreciate it.
That's what Kyle wants, because Kyle wants robo quarterback. He wants control.
Really does. Yeah.
He wants, he at least wants to feel like you're going to go where he wants you to go. Now, once the game starts and, if you were the starter and you get in there and you do other stuff, whatever, but he needs to feel good enough about
maybe whatever. I don't know about that. I think Kyle's the kind of guy where like you could leave the pocket, create your own play, throw for 50 yards. And Kyle's like, man, the quick out was open. That was the first read. I need you to hit that throw.
Well, we saw literally that happened last year when Brock threw a touchdown to Kittle against the Raiders. Juwan Jennings was open on a quick out on the other side of the field, and Kyle the feedback that Brock got was basically like, hey, you missed the quick out. It's like, I just threw a touchdown pass.
That's Kyle, man. And that's even, so Brock isn't in the inner sanctum either yet. He's still a pledge. And so Brock hasn't even felt Kyle's criticism yet. It's coming. But dude, nothing you do is good enough until essentially you make more money than Kyle Shanahan. When you make more money than Kyle Shanahan, Kyle backs off and he's like, all right, man, like your opinion matters. Why don't you come vacation with me and we'll talk it out. But like, if you're making $400K, he's like, dog, let's talk about the 4 plays you messed up right now.
I mean, he does coach quarterbacks hard, whether it's, whoever the hell
even
it's
Jimmy. Jimmy made like 3 times what Kyle made, and Kyle didn't give a damn. But then Jimmy didn't give a damn either, so gotta love him.
Don't you think it's going to be weird for Jimmy to be back with the Niners? Like, I think it's going to be a little bit weird for Brock, because I thought of Kittle wearing that Jimmy shirt. Remember, was it after the Seattle game on Thursday Night Football? And Brock was like, dude, like, what the hell? And it's like, I think he's a little sensitive to that too.
Yeah. Also, like, what if Brock doesn't play well in these joint practices and Jimmy does? That's a big story.
Right. That's what I think too, right? Because
I don't think it's going to happen.
Comparison.
Yeah, there are going to be comparisons. Now, fortunately, I don't think any beat writer is going to be able to watch both fields at the same time. I think that's physically impossible. But what you do have is, companies, NBC Sports, The Athletic, they have multiple people. They can collaborate. And I'm working solo, but I have friends like Ryan Sakamoto covers the Raiders. I'm sure he'll be watching Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm sure we can collaborate and find. And we're going to get the numbers. We're all going to know. But I do think it's going to be funny for people watching the Jimmy field. Like, what is Fred Warner going to say to that man? Because Fred Warner talks a lot of crap. And I think he probably held his tongue to a degree on the Niners practice field because that's your franchise quarterback, but now he doesn't have to anymore. What if he says something like, man, we carried your ass for 5 years? I'd like to know. Yeah.
And, Jimmy and Max Crosby supposedly got into it at Raiders practice the other day because Jimmy was talking trash. Like, what if Jimmy has one good play and he starts to talk a little trash? Fred Warner's going to be like, are you serious? It's going to be great.
Jimmy was talking trash? Which Jimmy is this a new Jimmy Garoppolo? Man, he was always so like buttoned down and conservative with the 49ers. No, until the last year, we started cursing.
It's not a new Jimmy. Did you see the reports that he's thrown 7 interceptions over the last 2 days at practice?
Yeah, I did see that. The Raiders are like, oh my God, I thought he was supposed to be the best quarterback in the league. His numbers are so good.
And then I will say, if you want to follow some Raiders people, Paul Gutierrez covers the Raiders for ESPN. Vic Tafer covers them for The Athletic. Because pay attention to what they say. What do they say about Lance? What do they say about Brock? Because they have no there's no bias there. They don't care. They're just going to report on what they see. So I'm fascinated to see what the Raiders people say about the Niners.
They're probably going to be pretty impressed considering how bad Jimmy Garoppolo's been this offseason. They're going to be like, wow. But like, nah, this is what Jimmy looked like on the Niners, man. If you put Brock on the Raiders, I'm sure he'd be struggling too. I'm sorry.
I haven't been.
I'm not sure, but I'm guessing.
I haven't been thrilled with the stuff that I've been hearing about Brock. I'm not going to lie. Like, and somebody asked Kyle this week, does Brock need to even play in the preseason? I'm like, are you out of your freaking mind? Of course he needs to play in the He's not a 10-year vet. Like,
no, he's the real deal. He's Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers mixed together. The real deal. People have said it. So he's like Joe Montana's essentially. So he's good. He's good. He's ready to go.
Yeah, I
don't know why the Niners are doing this to themselves, because they keep raising the bar on themselves. You have the real deal at quarterback. All right, man, go win the Super Bowl right now. Because I think a lot of people are being like, it's not their year. Yeah, they got to figure this quarterback situation out. They got to figure out that maybe next year is their year. Kyle said it's this year. Cool, sweet, do it.
Like, there's going to be no patience for Brock. Partly because he got off to such a good start last year. People are going to be like, all right, like the evaluation is going to change. Whereas last year, his mistakes were as a third string guy, last pick in the draft, at least the 49ers are still in these games. This year, it's going to be like,
how is he even functional?
Right.
Wow. Yeah. Now it's like, okay, you're the unquestioned starter of a Super Bowl team. Like, prove that you deserve that.
Go. And I don't want to hear.
And if you're not good enough for them to win a Super Bowl, it's your fault, man. Sorry.
Well,
just
and
like it was Jimmy's fault.
You can't say like, oh, well, he's young, he's got to grow and all this stuff. It's like, no, because you've all been telling us that this is the guy that is the real deal, right? Like, so then,
right.
Okay, then we have to hold you to a very high standard.
Also, people pretend like he never lost a game. He lost the NFC Championship game. He started it. He couldn't make it through the first drive. He lost. As opposed to Colin Kaepernick, who was down like 24-0 or something in the NFC Championship game and then won. So being able to stay healthy in a football game is a skill. I'm not saying getting hurt is your fault, but staying healthy is a feather in your cap. Kaepernick did it. He went to the Super Bowl. Brock didn't. He still has a lot to prove. He lost his last start, and he wasn't great in the start before that either. He was okay.
He also got bailed out at the end of that Raiders game when he threw up a pass that he never should have thrown. It just floated in the air, and Ayuk bailed him out at the end of that game by catching it. But whatever, that's stuff that happens. That happens.
I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying he's bad, but is he good enough to win a Super Bowl? He has to be. He has to be. They put him in this situation. That's the whole reason that Trey couldn't play his first year, right? Because it's a win now team. All right, well, Brock's ready. He's win now. He's the real deal. Sorry, Brock, but your coach just put that on you, so now you got to step up.
Yeah, you can't not play the guy you drafted third overall because it's a win now team when you never win. Like, if you don't actually win at all, at some point it's like, okay, we just need to play this person.
Right.
Let's see. Joseph Stockbridge, thanks for the super chat. Niners will never win the Super Bowl until their playlist consists of purely Bay Area music. How do you feel about that?
I think there's something to that. There's a little too much Southern Atlanta rap, and I think that's either because Kyle spent time in Atlanta or most of the players are from the South, which I get. But Du Bois would be great. LaRussell would be great. But that's more Vallejo. That's more Vallejo. But Vallejo is the Bay too, and I don't know. There's just not as much rap coming from Santa Clara these days. But you can get a really nice Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich in Santa Clara. So there's that.
Robert Holquin. Grant just loves starting drama. How do you feel about that?
I start it? Or do I describe it?
Well, you certainly don't stop it. Let's say that.
I don't know. Maybe. Hey, I didn't make it the Niners have a backup quarterback competition. That was their idea.
Right.
Who the hell does that?
Empire.
That's drama.
Hate now, Trey fanboys, because you will be eating your words. It's not hate. Like, again, what? Just because you want one quarterback to start doesn't mean.
And his picture is Brock Purdy.
Right. Like,
yeah.
It is amazing to me how many 49er fans take glee and joy out of what is going on with Trey Lance. Like, this is a member of your own team, and he's done nothing.
It's so tribal. I'm a Trey fan. I'm a Brock fan. No, I thought you were a 49er fan. They're both on the same team. They're probably friends. Why are you so tribal? What's the deal here? Very silly.
It's really, really strange.
Because the fact of the matter is probably none of them are good enough. So you picking one is like, cool. None of these guys could be in the team next year. Their quarterback could be Kirk Cousins. Like, let's be honest.
That's a very real thing. Yeah. And also, like, Brock could get hurt and Trey could come in, and then you're going to have to be cheering for this guy that you've been.
And then he could get hurt too. And then it could be freaking Sam Darnold time, and no one wants him.
But, like, I saw a picture yesterday of somebody had photoshopped Trey Lance, like, working at a fast food joint. Like, you took time and effort to make that video. Like, you could have to be rooting for this guy. History has shown since 2014, more than likely, he's going to play at some point this year. And yet you're just trashing him. Like, I don't know any people that like Trey Lance that are photoshopping Brock Purdy failing and doing all that crap, but it goes the other way.
But it makes sense, though, because Trey Lance got arrested that one time. Oh, wait, no, he didn't. Oh, but he beat up his girlfriend, right? Nah, he didn't do that either. Oh, but he got, no, nothing. He didn't do anything. He got hurt twice. He started 4 games and played like 3 of them. I don't get it, man. Some people really don't like him. And I'd understand it if there was something he did that was unsavory, but essentially he's just a young guy who kind of got screwed over and probably should have been drafted by any other team. Like, right. I'm not saying he's the right quarterback for this team, but how do you not sympathize with him a little bit? The Niners wanted him and then changed their mind. And he's like, okay, can I leave? And they're like, no. Like, that sucks. That's awful. I feel terrible.
Benjamin Bear. Oh my God, stats. That's so right. Someone actually spent time to create a Photoshop. Yeah, it's pretty pathetic. This JM617. Oh my God, they think Lance is Mahomes. Like, literally no one has ever said that. No one has ever said that. All people that want Trey to play have said is, it'd be nice to see if this guy can play, is all. Like,
also like an organization that gives up that much for a player can't just abandon the project after 3.5 games because you found Brock Purdy. Like, come on. Don't tell me that.
The Johnny Manziel documentary on Facebook. Have you seen that?
I saw some clips and they're really funny.
The dude said he watched 0 film. Like, literally,
he's
not
proud of it. He was like,
of film.
He's so proud of it, man. Yeah.
He got 8 starts. That's twice as many as Trey Lance. Johnny
Manziel seems like the kind of dude at the bar who just like brags about all the crazy stuff he did. He's like, man, I was in the NFL. I didn't watch any film. I stayed up all night. I didn't give a fuck. Like, nice, dude. That's super. Now you're in the bar with me. That's cool.
Yeah. What could have been? Yeah. Let's see. Ken Konecki says Trey Lance was drafted number 3 overall when he wasn't even worth it. We don't know. We don't know if he wasn't worth it.
I do think it's fair to say the Niners Kyle didn't really do his homework. He brought this dude into the organization and was like, he's not ready to go. Oh my God. He doesn't throw a tight spiral. Like, man, like, what did you like, study this guy for 3 weeks before the final? What happened, man? Were you cramming before the final? I don't understand. Yeah. Like his inexperience was a total shock to the 40. Like, you're telling me a lack of reps is a problem? Like, yeah, it is, man. And the solution isn't putting him on the bench. I'll tell you that. I tell you that.
You can go back and I've done this. You look at the transcript from the first press conferences after they drafted Trey. Kyle talks about how he's a natural quarterback and how they feel like he's ready. Like, no,
wrong.
They were incorrect in their evaluation, but that's not Trey's fault. But anyway,
no.
Let's transition a little bit because I want to get into.
Like Trey lied on his resume. He's like, I played 3 years at Alabama. I won 2 national titles. I threw 800 passes. Like, that didn't happen. It was all there. You messed up, Kyle. You didn't do your homework.
I think it's clear that they didn't get what they thought they were getting.
Correct. And that's on them. Like, they didn't even get the athlete they thought they were getting. Like, man, that's not hard to actually scout.
Yes.
There are stopwatches and there are tape measures and stuff. Like, figure that out. Come on.
Mista says his super chat was ignored by me. I don't think so. Oh, this one. Let me see. I apologize.
Okay, sorry.
Thoughts on Lance getting traded to the Bucs for 3rd and 4th rumors? I know the Bucs were interested in Trey Lance earlier this offseason, but Mike
3rd
Silver
and a 4th? Since when?
Right. Mike Silver said the best they got offered was a 5th.
Right.
So why would his
hasn't played since 2019, man. He hasn't played football since I was making like $1,500 a month and living in a 1-bedroom apartment. That's the last time he was playing football. Now I'm rich. Okay. I'm not rich. I'm just kidding. But I have a freaking house and 2 cars, and this dude still hasn't played football. My life has changed. A total 180. And Trey's still like, maybe next year I'll get to play. Maybe when Grant is 45 years old, I'll get to play football.
Ken is back. Trey Lance played for a garbage school. When you're drafted that high, that means you're an elite talent ready to play, and he wasn't. Still not ready. How could he be ready? He hasn't played. Of course he's still not ready. You don't magically become ready. That's not how it works. Man, that Trey Lance, the anger at Trey Lance, They're angry at him as if he played and he wasn't good. They're right. If he played a whole year and wasn't good, they're angry at him like that. Except he's only started 4 games, finished 3, and 1 was a monsoon.
I just feel like they're angry at that they drafted him. They're angry that they couldn't coach him. They're angry that they spent 2 years getting no results while Jeff Christensen did it in like a month. All of that is frustrating. You know what I mean? It just feels like you go out with a girl who's really hot and you realize like, man, she's out of my league. Like I can't do this. Like I can't please her. I can't do this. And like you're trying to gracefully get out knowing that she's going to dump you. She doesn't like you. You're not good. You're just not equipped for her. And you're like, you know what? She's going to figure it out in about a month. And I got to get out because this is going to really hurt my self-confidence. So I'm going to start seeing other girls. I'm going to make her feel like she did something wrong. I'm going to say her cooking isn't good. I'm going to say her feet stink. Whatever. Nothing she does is good enough because I know in a month she's going to realize I'm not the one. So I'm going to gaslight her. That's what it feels like to me. Sorry, Trey. You're not good enough, even though you never had a shot.
The anger is misdirected. You're right. You should be angry at the 49ers. You should be angry at Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and Adam Peters and all of that stuff. That's really where it should go. Trey Niner says, I feel sorry for Trey as well. But where did the organization go wrong with him? Trey opened as the starter and got injured. Brock came in and killed it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Can we just imagine that this organization is in Philadelphia, okay? This is Philadelphia, not San Francisco or New York. And this organization spends 3 first-round picks on a quarterback, okay? And they get him hurt. And then they say, Brock Purdy, little Brock, is the real deal. Like, I'm sorry, but that market would be like, no, the fuck he isn't. What are you talking about? But out here, everyone's like, man, that's the smartest shit I've ever heard. That's hella smart. We're in a more evolved fan base. We understand the genius behind that. Like, no, I'm sorry, man. I think this would be laughed at in other markets. And I'm the only person. Well, maybe I'm not the only person, but I'm one of the only people out here being like, this is crazy. What?
Remember when Nick Foles won a Super Bowl with the Eagles? Who was the starting quarterback for the Eagles the year after that? In week 1?
Carson Wentz.
They
were like, thank you so much, Nick. We'll build a statue of you. You know, we'll let you ride in the front at the parade, but you're not our starting quarterback. Let's be honest.
On the team.
And they were right. Like, they're very sentimental out here. Not so sentimental in the East Coast.
Miguel Ruiz, Lance being drafted number 3 is on the Niners and nobody else. How do we trash players for being drafted where they were? Exactly. He didn't draft himself.
He didn't lie in his resume. Everything was there. The Niners could have done their homework. They didn't. I mean, there was a lot of evidence on Mac Jones and Justin Fields, and the Niners didn't want those two. They wanted the dude whose resume was like this long. That was their choice. The one thing I would say with Trey is he probably should have went back to school and played more, but at the same time, he got $22 million. So, I don't know. Maybe not.
It's crazy that he hasn't started and finished 2 straight games since before COVID existed. Think about that. It's wild.
Dude. That was like, yeah. That's like a different era. That's like BC, before COVID.
BC, right. Brady Hill, Purdy ain't it. All right, thanks for that. Can I ask you about some of the training camp narratives? What is going on with the comments? Get the hell out of here. Why I'm so excited about this Raiders joint practice and game is because we get to see if some of that stuff actually holds up, right? For example, I haven't heard anybody say a bad word about Ty Davis-Price this training camp. He's been getting tons of praise. 1, does he look better to you? And 2, do you think that actually holds up, or is this like a Trent Taylor training camp hero type story?
I don't know. I thought Ty Davis-Price was like the worst player on the team last year. Like Ty Davis-Price would just run into his offensive lineman every time. It's like, man, can you not find daylight? Like it's not. I'm not saying it's hard to play. It's like easy to play running back, but like, there's not a lot there's not a transition. You run to daylight. And in this offense, there's no specific hole. It's not like a gap scheme where you're taking like one gap and trying to make it wider. Like it's a stretch zone. You pick the freaking lane that you want, pick it quick, be decisive and go. Make one cut and go. And he was indecisive, running into his blockers. I was like, this guy's hopeless. But this year, he is decisive. He's finding daylight. So he's functional. Like Raheem Mostert, when he played on this team, was never flashy. He would never make more than one cut in a run, right? He would take advantage of good blocking. He had the burst to get to the edge, and he was really, really efficient. I don't know that Ty Davis Price is like that. He doesn't have that kind of burst, but he can get to the edge, and he's 220, and he can fall forward. I feel like he could average 5 yards a carry in this offense, but I still think that Jordan Mason is a better player. Jordan Mason is the kind of guy he doesn't have the same burst as Ty Davis Price, but he can string together multiple cuts. He's not just a one cut guy. He's a downhill runner, but he doesn't hesitate. He's not like Le'Veon Bell in the backfield. He gets downfield and then he makes one guy miss, makes another guy miss. Ty Davis Price is going to try to run through contact. Jordan Mason can do that, and he can make guys miss. I'm such a huge Jordan Mason fan. The only reason he didn't play more last year is because I don't think he knew the whole offense. Some rookies take longer to learn that than others. I think he's got it now because he's like on the field for every freaking play in practice, and I think the Niners trust him. As a receiver, as a running back, he's really good. They're both good.
Doesn't leave a lot of room for Elijah Mitchell to make this team.
He needs to be healthy because the Niners have 3 really good running backs. And with as much as they give the ball to Christian McCaffrey, I don't know that you need a 4th tailback on this team, considering you also have Debo and Ray and Juice. So, yeah, I mean, they traded Jeff Wilson Jr. for a 5th. But the thing is, here's the thing. Kyle Shanahan loves Elijah Mitchell. Loves him. And I don't know how Kyle feels about Jordan Mason or Ty Davis Price. I know. Kyle isn't consistent. There's no rhyme or reason for the people he loves. But Elijah Mitchell is as close to being in the Cabo clique without being in the Cabo clique that one could be. Elijah. He loves that man.
Yeah, I don't think he should be on
the way it is.
Like, again,
I'm with you.
Super Bowl window, right? Win now window. I can't wait for Elijah Mitchell to get healthy. And I agree. I love him when he's on the field. Love him. He's great. But he's never on the field. He missed 16 to 20 games last year. He missed a bunch of time the year before. He was hurt in minicamp. He's hurt in training camp.
Now.
What?
He's hurt now. And it's a non-contact injury again.
I can't wait. Sorry. If I can't play my franchise quarterback, then I can't play Elijah Mitchell, especially with everybody else on the roster. So what about Colton McKivitz? Colton McKivitz has been getting a lot of love, but I worry with Colton McKivitz that the bar was so low for him that we're giving him a lot of praise simply because he wasn't the train wreck that some people thought he was going to be.
Yeah, and I don't know why he's getting a lot of love either. I mean, in one-on-ones, he faces Kerry Hyder, Drake Jackson,
right,
Taco Charlton, Cleveland Farrell. Like, okay, if he wins those reps, what does that prove? What's he going to do against Max Crosby? I'm not saying if he loses that reps, he's trash, but like right tackles have to face really good edge rushers most weeks. You don't just get let off the hook because you're on the right side. And I think he's been let off the hook all offseason because the Niners don't have a dominant edge rusher on that side. I mean, he hasn't had to face Nick Bosa. So I want to see McKivitz against some real talent, and that's Max Crosby. I like to see that.
And the other team is going to put their best pass rusher on McKivitz because they're not going to want to put him on Trent Williams. So he's going to draw that assignment.
It's a waste. Absolutely.
Most of the time. Yeah.
That's true. If it's 3rd and 6+, you got to have your best edge rusher on McKivitz's side.
Yep. Yeah. He's going to face that. So,
which means you got to have your tight end on McKivitz's side too. Like, and that takes George Kittle out of the play, all that stuff. Or the running back, McCaffrey, one of the two.
Fire the Great says, did y'all see what Nick Wright said about the 49ers quarterback?
Yeah, he stole all my points. That dude must watch me. He has good taste. Thank you, Nick.
I didn't see what he said, but
he said that Trey Lance essentially is getting written off quicker than any top 3 quarterback in the history of the NFL, which is true.
Yeah,
we've all known
that. True, we know that. Welcome, Nick Wright, to the last 6 months Nick. Of our lives.
I feel like Nick Wright is like most of the talking heads that talk about every single sport and every single team. Like, you don't really know about every team, but he does his homework better than probably Colin Cowherd. I think he does his own homework as opposed to Colin Cowherd.
Colin's got his own problems right now.
He must have good taste because he'd be watching me. So shout out to Nick Wright.
Did you see what just happened with Colin Cowherd?
I'm sorry, but like, I feel like he deserves to make gaffes like that because he's the kind of guy who like is very careless. He just comes across as someone who's super careless, lets other people do his homework for him, talks about shit he doesn't understand, and okay, well, this is what you get.
Dwayne Haskins on a graphic of quarterbacks that can't win the Super Bowl this year.
Did he apologize?
6 months ago.
No.
I have no
idea.
Did he
apologize? He should.
I don't know.
I don't know what the fuck I was talking about. That was insensitive. Sorry.
Right.
Sorry.
You can't have that.
To his
Somebody
family?
on that show's got to catch that.
It almost felt like a joke.
Trey Niners. We're really getting hyped off Ty Davis Price from training camp when he hasn't done crap in real games since he's been here. The proven guys are Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, and Elijah Mitchell. But Elijah Mitchell's always hurt.
But we saw it with Jordan Mason last year. We were like, hey, man, this guy's really good in camp. Let's see if it translates to the games. It did. I'm just saying. Everyone sees it. I see it too. He went from an indecisive running back who would, just run into the back of his freaking blockers to a guy who's finding daylight on most runs and making one cut and getting upfield. So that's what you want. That's why they drafted him.
And from your third running back, that's all you need. That's all you want.
You know what you haven't seen too? You know what you haven't seen once in training camp? Debo playing running back. Not once.
Yeah, I think that's done. I think for the most part. They never wanted to do it. They did it because they had to, and now teams have adjusted to it. Like, it had a shelf life, and I think that's, for the most part, he'll get a couple carries here and there, but it's pretty much over.
End arounds, screens, no doubt, but you don't have to line him up in the freaking I formation anymore. Stop.
Yeah, I agree. Stuntman. Hey, Grant, what's up with the Beal kid, the rookie?
Injured. That's why they brought in, it happens, but that's why they brought in Taco Charlton and other guys. So he's hurt. He could start the season on PUP.
Is Taco or Cleveland Farrell going to get the Chris Kasarik stimulus package, as Jason Aponte likes to call it?
Could be. I feel like it's not going to be Farrell. If I had to bet on anyone, I think I'd bet on, I don't know, Austin Bryant has been healthy the last 2 days, and he keeps getting sacks.
He's been getting a lot of love.
Fast. Yeah. I feel like Austin Bryant might be the one. I don't know. Watch out for him. That guy looks actually fast and explosive.
Jack Hammer said he thinks Drake Jackson is going to be more of a right place, right time kind of pass rusher rather than a guy like a D Ford who just dominates on his own. What do you think?
I don't see it with Drake Jackson. I don't see what are his pass rush moves? He'll do a bull rush where he just goes directly into the blocker's chest, or he'll try to run around the edge. I don't see a lot more than that. I know he's a good athlete who can bend and stuff, but I don't see him winning very much or in sophisticated ways where like Taco Charlton's like a first round pick who does have some pass rush, got long. You can see him like doing different things. I don't see that with Drake. And then with Austin Bryant, he just seems like leaner, faster, more explosive than Drake. Like doing the things that Drake does, but better. That's the way I see that one. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's.
Drake's bigger than like Austin Bryant. You wouldn't want him on the field on first and second down. He looks like he's 250. He looks like D Ford. Taller. So one of these guys will be the base DN setting the edge. Maybe it'll be Drake. Maybe it'll be Cleveland Farrell. But on third down, I don't know that you just roll Drake Jackson out there. Like he'll have to earn that. And if he doesn't, they have other guys. Taco Charlton being one of them. Austin Bryant being another.
Interesting. Well, I was kind of hoping we would see a leap from Drake Jackson, but maybe I'll have to wait a little longer.
Maybe I'm wrong, but just from what I see in one-on-ones, I don't see a guy who's going to be winning very much. But again, he's going to be playing next to Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, and Javon Hargrave. So he could get cleanup sacks. Like they could flush the quarterback out to his side, and all of a sudden he's chasing him down. He could be getting sacks 4 seconds into the down, 5 seconds into the down. Remember when Kerry Hyder had like 8 sacks a couple years ago? That's how he did it. That's exactly how he did it.
And I think that's kind of the goal for that's sort of their plan, right? That's why they wanted Hargrave to push the pocket up the middle. Bosa is going to be coming from the other end.
But the way it worked with D Ford was he was always the first guy in the pocket. And right, like he would miss, he would get in, cause havoc, make the quarterback move, reset, and then it's like, okay, now you got Armstead, Buckner, and Bosa in your face. Good luck. That was the formula, and that's why I like Austin Bryant. Like he gets in there quick. He doesn't necessarily, he may not necessarily get the sack, but if the quarterback has to reset because of Austin Bryant, then you're screwed.
Right, you're in trouble.
Then you're screwed. You're in trouble. Yeah.
And that's exactly what the 49ers have been trying to get back to since 2019.
Right.
They haven't totally been able to do it. Maybe this is a year that actually happens.
Maybe.
Jay McCollin says, food suggestion, Sicky's Garage Burgers in Vegas.
Dope. Thank you very much. I'm looking for places that aren't super expensive in Vegas because everything's like, why don't you come to Michael Mina's or freaking Wolfgang Puck's? Like, no.
Look, just post a couple YouTube shorts. That'll buy your meal. I know how the Grant Cohn YouTube channel works. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Acting like I'm not going to be getting like filet mignon every night. Come on.
You got to get one good
meal. What do I look like? There. Well, yeah, what do I look like? No, I'm going to have a bunch of good meals. That's the only thing I'm not going to be gambling.
Right.
I'm going to be spending money on Ubers and meals. That's what I'm going to do. Tell you right now. Tell you right now.
What I would do.
Hell yeah.
Let's go to somebody on the flip side before we get to a couple more super chats. Because I saw what you wrote up about Cam Latu the other day about how he looks terrible. And then I see him in the post-game press conference.
2 hands. I don't get it. You're a rookie, dude. Do it right. What are you doing? Who are you to just go up to, like, I'm sorry. That's not going to fly in the NFL, man. I'm so surprised. Surprised.
He says he's too slow. He says he's thinking about too much. He doesn't know the system. Like, this
That's
was
what
the
he said.
guy.
I didn't stick around to listen. That's what he said.
Yeah. He said, I'm thinking way too much. I'm too slow out there. He did say, like, look, I started out as a D end in college and I eventually transitioned to tight end. Like, I got it. I worked my way up to being the starter. So he thinks he'll do it again, but stunning, kind of like
he's a project
admission from him. Yeah, he's a project.
Yeah, you can see that he hasn't played the position for long because it's not. You have to make a real effort to catch every pass. You got to lay out. Brandon Ayuk laid out yesterday. Like you can't. It's not good enough to just put out an arm and be like, oh, that wasn't a great. Like, no, lay out, dude. Act like you care, because you know who else? You know who is going to do that? Everyone else on the team, except you.
Yeah.
Kittle will. Dwelly will, not you. So that's a real easy way to differentiate yourself from everyone. And right now, like on the sideline, he's kind of a punchline. Like, hey, has Latu had a catch today? No. Hey, is Latu going to do anything today? No. Like, that's Latu. He's the AJ Jenkins on the team right now. The guy that everyone knows is going to do nothing that day.
Oof.
I mean, what sucks about it too is that he is a good route runner. I've seen it. He can get open. Not a great athlete. He runs a 4.8 or something, but he gets open and he's big. And I think he's going to be a good blocker, but he drops everything. How?
Dude, just get on the job.
I think he can make acrobatic catches. He just seems like he's not locked in. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Yeah, dude, do better. We're all watching. You can do it. We believe in you.
Fair to say that none of the quarterbacks are looking like they can win the Super Bowl this year. That being said, Trey's growth might increase our chances next year.
Yeah. Next year. That should be the Niners slogan. They should just put it on Levi's next year. We got it next year. Super Bowl or bust next year.
It's frustrating
Quest for 6 next year. Sorry.
Like, as a fan, these are the good times, right? Your team is not always going to be in the playoffs every year. You're going to have rebuilding years, all this stuff. This is the good time, but it's also frustrating because they are so close and they haven't been able to win a championship that, like, you can't even totally enjoy the good time because they haven't actually finished the job.
Yeah, it's like if you're old enough to remember the Harbaugh years, this doesn't last forever. Like,
right.
Trent Williams is at the end. George Kittle is nearing the end. Eric Armstead nearing the end. Javon Hargrave nearing the end. So, yeah, the Niners may be able to build a new team around Nick Bosa and fine. But this particular team nearing the end, and I think there's got to be like a lot of urgency and desperation to validate this entire run. Use check nearing the end. They got to do it.
Think about the Harbaugh years, right? 2011, NFC Championship game. 2012.
Head of schedule.
Super Bowl. 2013.
Right on time.
NFC Championship game.
The end.
It was over. It was over after that. And now look at the
2 years later, everyone's gone. Retired, fired, gone. Like, shit happens fast.
Look at the 49ers. 2019, Super Bowl. 2021, NFC Championship game. 2022, NFC Championship game. Like, we may be at the end of the window already.
Also, when I was at UCLA, we went to the Final Four 3 years in a row. Like, we were the best, but we never quite got over. We never quite got over the hump. And then a few years later, Ben Howland was fired, and we sucked again. That happened. It happens in sports. You can't just because you're perennially in the winner's circle doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever. Sometimes it ends.
Let's hope we can at least just give me one more run at it, please. Give me one more run.
You know why? January is a very lucrative month when they're in the playoffs. It's the best.
Yeah, I'm independent.
People think I root against the Niners. I like them in the play. Make the playoffs at least, and also honestly go to the Super Bowl. I don't care if you win it or not. Either way, fine. Actually, I think if they won the Super Bowl, that would be better for business. But I don't really care. Just go to the Super Bowl so I can have the whole Super Bowl week.
Right. Yeah. From a business perspective, just getting there is good. But you would kill Kyle if he got to another Super Bowl and lost. You'd crush it.
Sure. But if he won, I feel like there would be so many new Niner fans that would be good for business too. Like, I don't have to have like something over. I don't have to have like the upper hand on Kyle and be like, oh, you're not who you think you're. I'd be happy to say, hey, man, you did it. Congrats. And I'm taking credit because I was riding you so hard.
Yeah, that's what
I'll do. I'll just take credit for it. Just say you're welcome.
Yeah, just ask him, make sure you tell him what size you want your championship ring to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Two more people I want to ask you about. Danny Gray. Can this guy catch? Is he good? What's the deal with it?
I think he's better. Like last year, I was like, no, this guy catches with his chest. He's not really a route runner. He's a one-trick pony who, is going to drop a deep ball wide open in a game and they're never going to throw him one again. This year, like he's had to develop other parts of his game because the starting quarterback isn't a deep thrower. Like if Danny Gray is going to make this team, he needs to show he can do other things other than run fades because he's not going to get that target. So all of a sudden he's running the route that every wide receiver on this team has to run. The dig, the 15-yard in breaker. And that's a tough one because you often get smacked. You run that against zone coverage. You get hit by linebackers. You got to catch the ball above your head. It's hard. He's doing it. Will he do it in games when you could actually get hit? We'll see. Like Dante Pettis wouldn't do it in practices. He would hear footsteps in practices. So it's so far so good. He's built. He looks like he has an NFL body. He looks like he's doing everything right. I think he's going to make the team. And if Trey Lance ever plays, he really might make an impact.
I'm old enough to remember the Trey Lance, Danny Gray preseason touchdown against the Packers. God, that happened.
That wasn't even a year ago.
When that happened, I remember doing the instant reaction after the game and being like, holy crap, it's happening. Like, this is the offense that we're going to see. And then not.
It was a really nice throw from Lance, too.
Yeah.
Really nice
imagine
throw.
that.
Yeah, that's the one thing he hasn't been hitting consistently in training camp. Like, he's been really good in the short and intermediate stuff, but all of a sudden his deep throws during 11-on-11s have been low and overthrown. It's like, what are you, freaking Jimmy Garoppolo now? Like, what the freak? What happened to you, man? But it's early, and I do think it's really important that he's improving the other parts of his game. But I feel like he has this new throwing motion, and all of a sudden the deep throws are like an adventure for him. I don't know. I mean, it's early. We'll see.
That's not the narrative that you hear, though. We always hear about, Trey Lance missed a short pass. We don't hear that he's hitting the short and intermediate stuff and that the deep stuff is, we hear the opposite.
I think the narrative, or I think the reporting on Trey Lance has been lazy at best and inaccurate at worst. And people just say, it's biased or whatever. But I think a lot of people just want to crap on Trey. And there's a big market for it. And if you do it, you get a lot of attention. That's what people do.
Yeah. Matthew McHose says Kelsey equals 33, best tight end in the NFL. George Kittle equals 29 near the end. There's some sort of argument happening in the chat, apparently, about George Kittle. I think George Kittle is nearing the end of his time with the 49ers. I know George gets mad at me every time I say that. I don't care. If he didn't have a year like he did last year to finish up, I don't know what the hell happens with George Kittle, but I know that he's got to keep it up with those damn touchdowns. Otherwise, he makes too much money for this team to keep him around.
Kelsey and George are way different. Travis Kelce has been the go-to guy in the passing game like every year of his career. George was the go-to guy in the passing game like once or twice. Now he's the guy in the red zone, but he's not the first, second, third. He might be the fourth option in the passing game this year, which is fine. He's had injury issues. You got to have him healthy for the playoffs. He's a big game player. He steps up on the biggest stages, but I don't know. Like a lot of games from Kittle are going to be 4 catches, 25 yards.
Yes.
A lot of games, maybe a touchdown, but that's him now.
And look, if he can be a major red zone threat, you can live with that because he can make impact plays. But yeah, I think that's people need to just accept that. Like him and Kelsey entirely. Kelsey's a wide receiver. Like he literally is a wide receiver.
No doubt. Yeah.
Last guy, Jair Brown. We heard really good things after he was drafted, got a lot of praise. I've heard virtually nothing about him in camp until yesterday when he intercepted Sam Darnold. People keep saying, well, he's a gamer. When the games start, we'll get out there. We're like, okay, the game starts Sunday. Let's see something, son.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. I mean, the interception he made yesterday, sure, it's his first one at camp, but I don't remember Jaquiski Tartt making... I mean, he made maybe one. He had that one-handed interception against Carolina week 1, 2017. Other than that, nah. Jimmy Ward, love you, man, but nah. Like, this is the kind of play that Gibson makes, Afunga makes. I don't think Brown's going to start anytime soon because Gibson is having, he's having as good of a training camp as anyone on the team. He has 3 pick sixes. He's killing Brock Purdy. Like Brock Purdy be doing pretty well if it wasn't for Tashaun Gibson. It's like Gibson knows, you want to take my job? Oh, you traded up to spend your first pick on someone who plays my position? Let me show you what I do. Because the thing about Deshaun Gibson, no one's ever thought anything of him in the NFL. I don't know how much money he's made. Every freaking year, 4 picks, 5 picks. Like, look at his stat sheet. He's shockingly consistent, and it doesn't look like he's falling off anytime soon. But it's nice that they have depth. They have a third playmaker at safety when they used to have none. No offense, but what Balky wanted was athletes who could play man-to-man coverage when needed. That's Tart and Jimmy Ward.
Yep.
Now you have playmakers who you don't want man-to-man coverage, but intercept passes. That's great. I want that too, because you can't hit players anymore, but you can pick off passes.
There's Deshaun Gibson's numbers if you're watching on the stream. 5 picks last year. He's had multiple picks.
32.
Pretty much every year.
32 in his career. Like, wow. How many did Earl Thomas have in his career? Probably more. Probably more. And that's like a Hall of Fame safety. Earl
but
Thomas
I will say that I agree. The Niners
had 30 in his career. Deshaun Gibson has 32. I'm not saying he's a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying he's a great player, but you got to respect that. You got to respect that.
And I think the Niners have shifted with their safeties from just stop the big play to make the big play.
Make the freaking big play. Because if you had done that in the NFC Championship game 2 years ago,
as Kyle Shanahan recently brought up, sorry, Tart, catching strays from your former head coach. But
that's rough.
I totally agree. All right, let's get
I get the feeling Jaquiski Tart is never going to go to Cabo San Lucas, San anything. Not with the Niners.
Not with the Niners. Official B&A Music. Welcome back. The Chicken Spot on Lamb in Washington, Grant.
Thank you. Thank you, Brooks. Thank you. I need the suggestions. Keep them coming.
Crusher, 831. If McKivitz doesn't end up working out at right tackle, who has the best potential to fill that position on the current roster? That's the problem. I don't know.
Not Matt Pryor. That guy's awful. Sorry, Matt. I'm interested in Leroy Watson, but I also kind of feel like he's awful too. He's a good athlete who played tight end in college, and they're trying to turn him into an offensive tackle. And I think like he might work out eventually, but right now I just get the feeling he's not good at football. And maybe it's just a one-on-one thing. Like maybe in the 11-on-11s he'll be better, but I was like, ugh. But I do I'm open-minded with him. McKivitz to me is like a guard that they're trying to play at tackle. I think you do better taking a tight end and moving him to tackle because you want the quick feet and stuff like that. I just don't think McKivitz has the foot quickness he's going to need to really mirror the best pass rushers in space, because that's what right tackles have to do now. That's why they make almost as much money as left tackles.
Yeah, I mean, what did McGlinchey get? $80 million guaranteed from
and he
Denver.
Can't even do that.
Right, that's true. He can't. But he was the best of a bad free agent crop. Juan Torres says, my buddy Richie is switching teams because of the way Kyle and the organization have handled Trey. I don't know if there's anything that the Niners can do that would make me switch teams. And maybe that's
I don't root for the Niners. I like covering them, and I feel like they're the most interesting team to cover in football. They're a lot like the Cowboys in the sense that they have a huge fan base, and there's a lot of national and global interest in them. But the Cowboys have their quarterback. Like, there's less to talk about with them. The Niners don't have their quarterback, which is nice. Thank you, Kyle.
Yes. I mean, the interest with this team never stops. They always make it interesting for you.
It's great.
Yeah. And we will be
I really
here
appreciate it
through all of it with you. And of course,
that's why I want Kyle to be here, because like they could replace him with someone named like John Smith or something who sucks and is boring. And you're like, oh, this isn't good anymore. So it's Kyle, win the Super Bowl. We need to keep you around.
That'll open up a whole other thing. Does he get an extension? Well, let's worry about that when we get to it. But enjoy the joint practices and the time in Vegas, Grant. We always appreciate your time here on the show. Like and subscribe to the Gold Standard YouTube channel and to the Grant Cohn YouTube channel. Official B&A Music at the buzzer. Plot twist. Cameron Latu becomes starting right tackle.
Could happen.
You know, I wouldn't put anything past anything at this point. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with this team? Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.